Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. We got 3 more days until Christmas Day, and I have this hopeless feeling. And to understand why, we need to go back in time. So this year, 2024, has been marked by um, difficulty for me, difficulty with networking with people. I was working in Apache Junction, and all of the events that I wanted to go to were significant commutes away. And then I would go there, and then I would have difficulty connecting with anybody there. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I suffered a lot of penalties from being single, most notably in July. It was 115 degrees here in the Phoenix area, and I had gotten COVID-19. And alone, COVID-19, hot. I'll let you think about that. Just as I was recovering from COVID-19, I go to my favorite local grocery store, and security gives me a difficult time there. First of all, I don't even remember how I drove there. I was disoriented, I was dehydrated, I needed to go out to get some supplies, and I got there, and I don't know how I got there. It's a miracle that I didn't have an accident on the way there. And I had picked up about 5 bananas, and then as I was leaving the store, I realized there's nowhere to sit down in the front of the store. Usually there's like a Starbucks or something. I think they were renovating that place. And so I sat on this mobility scooter to eat it because I was disoriented, and it was 115 outside. Otherwise, I'd just go out to my car, right? Like today, it's 60 degrees, 50 degrees maybe in the morning. Oh, I'd go out to my car to do it if that were the case. But it was 115 that day. And the security guard gives me a hard time. And the only reason he asked me to leave the store, he said the mobility scooters are for people to use in the store. He asked me to leave the store. And the only reason he backed off of that was because he heard that I had COVID-19. And really frustrating on 2 fronts. Number one, I feel like in addition to being lonely from being single, now I'm being penalized for it, right? Kicking me when I'm down. And second, it gave me a bad feeling about how here in the United States, when you get anything wrong, even if it's not your fault, right, COVID-19 or whatever, you're on your own, right? It just, I didn't like that feeling of every person for themselves. I really despise it. I'm doing a little bit better now, but I still feel like I'm skating on thin ice. Get anything wrong, and you're out. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he said that you need to build up a good financial cushion. And I wasn't doing badly financially at the time, but I still feel like I'm skating on. Even today, I still feel like I'm skating on thin ice. I have a colleague who's younger than me, and he's already gone through cancer and chemotherapy. Oh my God! God forbid if I were to be diagnosed with cancer today, I would be in a serious bind. I don't have the good network and support for that at the moment. I pray that I get there before anything like that were to happen to me. And God forbid if we talk about financial cushion. God forbid if because we all know that even our money is on very thin ice. Right? It doesn't take very much for what we thought was our nest egg to be wiped out. Right? We saw that 2 times in our lifetimes, right? And I feel like I'm skating on very thin ice there too, right? Um, I muse. I know I muse a lot about how I wish bismuth prices would crash to zero so I could just steal all the bismuth that I want. I muse about silver crashing to zero so I could go out and haul all the silver I want back home. The truth is that the way my luck turns out, maybe silver will crash to zero, but on the very same day that it does, I'll get cancer, right? That's the kind of luck that I have, unfortunately. Uh, I'm not joking. Uh, that's the luck that I have. The one time that I talk about being unsuccessful in my dating life. The truth is that a lot of times the way it plays out is that the one time a girl decides to go out on a date with me, that's the one time that I run into all sorts of drama. Right, my card doesn't work. I get sick. I get COVID-19, or something else goes wrong. Right, I lose my job the night before we go on that date. I'm not joking. That is how my luck typically plays out. I'm not joking about that. Um, I guarantee you that the day that silver crashes by 80%, that's also going to be the day that I desperately need my silver for something, right? And I won't be able to buy more, right? Okay, Rusty Trombone asks, "What's your gold, silver, and palladium?" Not very well lately because I've been buying bismuth. I don't like. I like how you can get so much bismuth for your money, right? And I can actually make stuff out of it. And if bismuth really does go to zero, at least I'll have some art, right? If gold and silver go to zero, I'll have nothing, right? I'll just right. And I really like it. See, the way I've done it, not only do I invest in bismuth as bullion, but I make art out of it. And if bismuth goes up, the bullion part of my investment portfolio does well, right? If bismuth goes down, the art projects will bring in that much more cash flow, right? I kind of hedge my bets that way, right? And I like it. You can't do that with a lot of other investments, right? Uh, very seldom do you see an investment that hedges itself, right? Isn't that weird? And but anyways, getting back to the story, I didn't like that I had difficulty with networking. I didn't like the fact that single life is so expensive, right? Having to pay your own way and do all of your own domestic chores, and also when even pleasure is more expensive. Right? For example, I traveled to Kerrville, Texas last April to go see a solar eclipse. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It took me 3 days to drive there. In total, it's probably a 15-hour drive. And I was thinking to myself, if only I had a partner to drive with, that drive would have looked very differently. First of all, we'd have two people to pay for all the expenses, right? And we probably could have afforded Airbnb or hotel rooms along the way, right? I ended up staying in my car along the way, not necessarily just because of money, but and also I hardly got to see anything along the way because I would stop in a town that I actually like to see, El Paso and a few other towns, and I'd be exhausted because I was the only one driving. If there were two of us driving, that would have played out differently. We would have taken turns driving, and we would have had energy when we got to El Paso. And it's just yet another penalty in a sea of penalties of being single, right? It's not even just any one of these penalties would probably not be a big deal, right? But when it's a sea of them, and on top of that, the world is very hostile to you, right? So at my workplace, I teach at a community college. What really sucks is we don't have a very well defined vacation policy. And you might say, well, that you could really take advantage of that. Well, not really, because instead of vacation being judged by how many days you take, now it's judged by how you live your life, right? In some ways, it's even worse, right? So, for example, I had a colleague who just took some time off to take his kids to where was that? Uh, some common vacation destination. I can't remember what it was. And meanwhile, I'm going out there to see a solar eclipse. I go out to go compete in a computer Olympiad. It gets judged, right? I'd rather take it because I have 3 days to burn in my vacation bank, right? Rather than having to elaborate on what I'm doing, right, and be judged by it, right? But last year, uh, I thought this would be acceptable, so I scheduled a day off on Mary Curry's birthday, saying that I was gonna celebrate her birthday by repeating her chemistry experiments. What I had done was I figured out how to extract polonium 210 from the air, if you could believe it. Radon in the air decays into polonium 210, which is positively charged. It sticks to the dust in your house. And um, I discovered that if you had a very high static electricity, you could attract polonium dust. And I discovered that you could also concentrate it. Dust is mostly organic material. It's kind of disgusting, but most of the dust around your house comes from skin, dead skin cells. And so you can dissolve organic material with piranha solution, a mixture of sulfuric acid with hydrogen peroxide. And what stays behind is the uh, polonium 210 and all the other mineral particles, right? And so what I had done was collected tons and tons of dust from, or I was going to. I only did a small amount. I collected some dust from a high static of electricity, and I dissolved it in piranha solution, and then I boiled off the piranha solution to leave behind a sludge of minerals. And when I put the Geiger counter next to it, it went ga 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 ga. And it said SOS across the guy. It was really radioactive. I got scared to death though from even that small amount of dust. But I was planning on taking the day off on Mary Curry's birthday to really collect a ton of radioactive dust to really go to town with that. And so it's a pretty involved process. PPE and all sorts of precautions. Even that small amount scared me to death. And the following day after I did that, I vomited. I don't know if I got radiation poisoning. Hopefully, I was just scared to death and it made me vomit. I hope it wasn't acute radiation syndrome or anything like that. But I was hoping to take the day off to really go to town with that. I scheduled Mary Curry's birthday off to hopefully do that. But then I was at the college, and one of my students said something that was kind of touching, and I felt like, I can't miss you guys to do this. And so I canceled the day off. And so it's yet another penalty of being single. And so, in response to that, I decided to go back to the dating world, and I didn't know where to start. You got to understand, a lot of times society is really cruel to you when they know that you want something. I had a colleague who, I don't know what she got out of me, but I wasn't interested in her. She's 50, 60 years old. I was asking her if she knew anybody, and she decided to string me along and play with me. She told me about these neighbors that I should know, and then she would conveniently hijack events and make them not work out. I don't know what her intentions were. Perhaps it was workplace rivalry of some sort. And so for several months, I had to deal with people who did stuff like that. Finally, I talked to a friend that I knew from church, and he set me up on this blind date. And yes, let's just let's just make a long story short. It has gone much better than my wildest dreams. Um, and there's been pros and cons. I won't say it on here because of the girl might be watching, but there's been pros and cons of going back to dating. But I quickly realized there's a big gap in my plan. You got to remember why I went back to dating. The situation with getting COVID-19 during a heat wave and the store being hostile with me, the travel and not having a second set of hands and being exhausted when I wanted to go out to El Paso. There's uh, the colleague who was playing with my heart for whatever bizarre motive she had. She never even ask me for it. It's not like she wanted some favors out of me and was stringing me along with that. No, it wasn't even that. I don't know what it was. It sounded like some kind of it had the vibe of some kind of workplace rivalry. She wanted me to she wanted to sabotage. Actually, if that was her intentions, it kind of backfired on her. I was kind of so emotionally messed up that I buried my head in my work. I so if that was her goal, she royally failed, right? And I don't know what and so you got to remember why I even went back to dating. But I went back to dating. Did it solve any of that? Not at all. I'm still having to pay all my bills my own way. I still have to handle all my domestic chores. I still have workplace rivalry kind of problems. And now I just have all of the expenses and time commitments of dating. And so I don't know what I'm doing now. Now, don't get me wrong. It's nice to have somebody in my life, and it's nice to feel loved again, and all of that. And but it hasn't solved a lot of problems that I thought it would solve. Not until I get to the other side of the equation, at least, right? And it's just maddening. I feel everything is hopeless. I still have to, especially having to handle all my domestic chores on my own. I so badly wish that I never have to cook dinner again, or not never, but at least have somebody to share that responsibility with, right? It's maddening. I there are so many great things I could be doing, especially writing the number one AI for the game of Skeld and making bismuth art and extracting polonium from household dust, building a nuclear reactor out of that. There's so many great things I could be doing. Unfortunately, I have to cook dinner and clean the house and all that, and dealing with crappy landlords. Right now, I'm staying with a friend of actually my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. So at least I know that she can break up gracefully, right? That's one reason that I like her. Actually, is I like to date people who could break up gracefully and not have a nuclear bomb, a social nuclear bomb go off after a breakup, right? That's something that I think about before I go into a date, actually. Um, so let's see. Do you have super internet? You have access? Do you have access to Aqua Regia? I haven't really messed with Aqua Regia as much. I like Piranha Solution because it dissolves organic material and just leaves behind whatever you want to leave behind, right? But yeah, unfortunately, I feel like my life has been hijacked by our the way society operates, right? I can't take vacation when I want to. I can't hold the kind of sexual orientation that I want to. I can't have the kind of hobbies that I want to. I feel like my life has been hijacked by the way our society operates. Uh, Rusty Trombone, do you feel that way? Do you feel that the way you want to live your life is incongruent with society, and as a result, it feels like your life has been hijacked, right? And so I don't know if that's the right word to put it. If I could have it my own way, I don't think I would date. But unfortunately, we all know how well that goes in our society, right? Having to handle your own domestic chores and taking that road trip and not having any energy along the way, judgment at the workplace, prejudice, and then the colleague who decided to mess with me, and getting COVID-19 and not having somebody to take care of you. Uh, you get the idea, right? Uh, I have my own way. I live in a chem lab separating gold from waste. Why gold though? Gold is so common, right? I want to figure out how to get nuclear energy out of thin air, right? So uh, here in Phoenix, we have a lot of homes that have radon problems, and so see, Rusty Trombone says money, sell it right away. Well, here's the thing: money's only useful because society is delusioned into believing that it is useful. Ah, there it is. Your life is being hijacked just by what you just said. I hate to be the one to point this out. But here I'll point it out. Gold is very common. Forget about it. It's uh, in an honest society, bismuth, tellurium, thallium, indium, those should be our precious metals, not gold. Get that straight out of your head. And all right, all right. I really hate that. I really hate the concept of money. Money is basically a game of Simon Says, right? Simon Says, chase after me, right? And I hate having to play that game. Uh, all right. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum bum